Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Dasatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we're going to discuss, Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Today we're going to discuss the background and conception of the Compassion Festival that's going to take place next Saturday at the Westlake Park in downtown Seattle. And during that festival, we're going to make a cogent presentation of the near-urban solution to homelessness. That means we will be promoting our plan to construct what's called the Pioneer Village, based on ancient Vedic wisdom. And the whole idea is this will be a permanent solution to homelessness, which is a serious problem right now, all down the West Coast and around the United States. And secondly, at a later date, due to robotization, that means robots. Many people, massive numbers of people will lose their jobs. It won't all happen overnight, but in the next 10 to 15 years, there'll be a major restructuring of the workforce, human workforce, which will be replaced by robots. Now, some of those people will take education, to get education to become an army of people that will service the robots. But not everyone will do that. Some people will fall through the cracks and become homeless because they can't earn a living. Especially the low-paying jobs, they'll be replaced first. You know, flipping hamburgers. They already have robots that can flip burgers, and they have robots. You have self-driving cars that will replace many of the truck drivers and taxi drivers. You think Uber has done damage to the taxi business? Wait till they have self-driving cars. And many functions that are hand functions in factories will be replaced by robots. So it's going to create a lot of unemployment for low salaried workers, and then it's going to create unemployment for people working in internet technology and programming and things like that. It'll create unemployment in the stock market. The machines will take over almost all the functions of the stock market, and so forth. So you see, a lot of people are going to lose jobs, and therefore and they will not have. You lose jobs, you don't have a way to make a living. You can't pay your mortgage, etc. You can't pay for gasoline. You can't pay for electric car. Everything becomes very difficult in life. So these these pioneer villages will be alternative living possibilities for the jobless in the United States, who'll be able to live in these self-sufficient villages for with very little money. And then also, and the government's already planning to tax these big companies like Amazon, who have hundreds and thousands of employees, so that they can pay a minimum wage for all the people that are laid off their jobs. so they can subsist. And the pioneer village or the Vedic village is based on subsistence living, where you basically produce your own food. You have minimal use of minimal need for electricity. You grow your own food, and so forth. So we're going to explain all this in this presentation. So then, yes.
This might happen earlier also when the farmers switched from
Oh yeah.
cow-based, horse-based farming towards tractor-based farming with fertilizers and everything.
Oh, they're gonna replace the farm workers, the Mexicans and Latinos,
No,
with machines, with robots.
So
Yeah.
how that is affected? Like, same thing is happening now again with a different paradigm. But earlier it has attacked, same thing has attacked, the technology has attacked the villages, farming.
Yes.
Lands. So how that has evolved? It has already evolved in some way. And
Well, the tractor eliminated hundreds and hundreds of workers, right? But now, the people like the Mexicans and the migrant workers who come to the United States to help pick fruits and vegetables and things, almost all of them will be eliminated by machines. They already have some of those machines that are working. That you don't need the migrant workers anymore coming from South America. That could eliminate millions of jobs. And of course the tractor and the thresher and all these big machines that they have in these agro-industrial farms, they eliminate huge number of farm.
what happened to those people?
Well, they went to, picking fruits and growing lettuce and things like that in Mexico and the United States. But they're going to be eliminated too. Because they're robots. I mean, they've already roboticized growing lettuce in greenhouses. They can produce millions of lettuces very quickly, all year round. I mean, if you figure out how much lettuce do they sell in the United States, millions. How do they produce all that? They have these gigantic greenhouses now, all robotized. Hardly any workers, just people maintaining the machinery and the IT guys making sure all the functions are being carried out. And they've eliminated a huge number of workers. And that's why lettuce is so cheap. It's all produced in robotized greenhouses in the United States and in other countries. Okay, so this is the subjects: Seattle area homelessness, press release, etc. So next one. Next slide, frame. Okay, this is just giving an idea of the level of homelessness there is. And the main cities in the United States where there's homelessness, you have on the East Coast, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, and so forth, Washington, D.C., Nashville, Tennessee, and so forth. And then you have the West Coast. You have Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles. And you have some in Texas, a little bit in Las Vegas, but mostly, Washington, Oregon, California, a little bit in Texas, and on the East Coast. So altogether, I think you have about maybe close to 700,000 people, maybe 1 million people that are homeless in the United States. And there's different degrees of homelessness. Next slide. So this is our press release that we're going to send out Monday. The city of Seattle is working hard to combat homelessness. However, the magnitude of the problem is huge. The city's budget for homelessness funds 28 plus agencies helping the homeless. Northwest Share, NW Share, a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, was incorporated in 2000. Northwest Share proposes to establish a model pioneer village to solve the problem of homelessness with low-cost sustainable housing. The solution addresses the long-term needs of the homeless. The advantages of the pioneer village are the following: self-sufficient, off-the-grid, minimal electricity produced by solar panels, rainwater collection, sustainable gardening for fresh vegetables, etc. Inhabitants of the pioneer village will learn life skills to maintain a self-sufficient community and establish the culture of effective communication and the spirit of cooperation. The community will develop cottage industries to generate funds for maintenance. One project will be to save cows destined for the slaughterhouse. These cows will be protected so that their dung and urine can be used for making fertilizer for the gardens and eventually for sale to generate funds. Other cottage industries will evolve as the cooperative spirit of the inhabitants increases. The problem of the homeless is that they don't have a fixed residence. The pioneer village will be a permanent solution for homelessness. With a fixed residence, it will be possible to educate the inhabitants to maintain themselves with farming, animal husbandry, cottage industries, self-healing through regulated healthy diet, herbalism, and lifestyle adjustments such as early to bed, early to rise, makes a person healthy, wealthy, and wise. The pioneer village will also be a sustainable model in the future when the industrial robots will eliminate many jobs of USA workers. It will be possible for jobless workers and their families to live in pioneer villages on very limited income. The pioneer village will also be essential if the transportation and communication systems fail due to war or natural disaster. People will be able to live in sustainable villages until the normal functions are reestablished. Okay, so it's just a quick summary of the pioneer village for the press. Now the problem statement, next one. Problem statement and press snippets. A large number of homeless are transitional homeless who would like to get work but are unable to due to the lack of lifestyle adjustment, a lifestyle stability and lack of nutrition. NGO reports, that's non-governmental organization reports, show that the number of people who are living in vehicles is also increasing. In the future, we foresee massive unemployment due to robotization and automation of business processes. People living on fixed incomes are also finding it challenging to pay taxes on homes that have seen significant increase in values. While the city government is working hard to provide housing to the affected audience, there is a shortage of places where the homeless can eat nutritious food. The city government is working hard to provide housing to the affected homeless. Housing. To provide limited housing for the homeless. I'm going to correct this as we go along. I'm going to eliminate that thing about nutritious meals. We propose a food first, housing first approach and deal with other issues like substance abuse and violence later. Okay. Yeah.
The last line, we propose a food first, housing first approach. That should be the part of the previous slide, not the part of this one, because this slide is problem statement and press effects. So how come it came here?
Yeah, that's out of place. You're right. We'll put it somewhere else. We'll put it in the previous. Yeah. That's a good observation. Okay. Yeah, the city government is working hard to provide limited housing for the homeless. Here are some recent press snippets on issues impacting the homeless in Seattle. Once people have that basic stability of a place to sleep and some food to eat, they are much better equipped to start dealing with those secondary problems in their lives, like addiction, like a lack of a job, and other issues that we typically expect them to fix in order to deserve housing, said Rankin. So Rankin is some man, and it gives you the article in the news where he said that. Next, the fact that we're seeing, so this is important, you know, they're saying housing first. So food first, housing first should be the approach. The fact that we're seeing multiple different infections now increasing in the homeless population is an indicator of the sheer increase in the number of homeless people in King County, and the fact that they're in crowded conditions with poor hygiene and sanitation, said Dr. Jeff Duchin. So that's another issue, that the homeless are breeding grounds for diseases because of their poor hygiene and lack of proper living conditions and of course, sanitation. Toddler found eating off ground at Seattle homeless encampment. She saw an approximately 2-year-old child sitting on the ground eating stale powdered donuts on the ground and coloring, said Trooper Rick Johnson, a spokesman for the Washington State Patrol. So that's another issue. Children are not being protected. Tent City 3 shelters up to 100 regular residents. Our ability to cook is limited. We have a coffee pot and a microwave, and hot meals are always welcome. We have no refrigerator, but we have several large coolers to schedule hot meals. So another issue is they don't have a regular kitchen in all these places. They just have ad hoc camping equipment for cooking. In South Seattle, the number of homeless students tripled since 2010. Students experiencing homelessness need a place that is stable, a place where they are supported and nurtured. For some, that place is school. So that's another aspect of homelessness. You have homeless students. Yes.
This slide should come before previous slide, because we are telling the problems. Like we started with saying that okay, this is homeless numbers are there, and these are there.
Okay.
There, and our solution should be after this.
Okay. Good. Will do. So next slide. This is the advertisement for our homeless festival called Festival of Compassion. Northwest Share aims to give a permanent solution to the homeless problem. Northwest Share is conducting the first Festival of Compassion at Westlake Park in downtown Seattle on June 23rd from noon to 5 p.m. The motto of Northwest Share is creating prosperity by sharing. In times of emergency, Americans come together as one nation to work cooperatively and help relieve the miseries of those that are less fortunate. So this is just a general statement. And the hope that we have that people come together and become generous. Next slide. The City of Seattle is working hard to solve homelessness. Northwest Share has the comprehensive plan and volunteer base to help the city succeed. So these are different slides of articles about homelessness in Seattle. In 2017, the city of Seattle spent $54 million for homeless programs. Next slide. This next slide shows the federal and state funding sources for homelessness in King County and Seattle. The total is $195,588,532. That's like less than $250 million, a little less than $250 million was spent in, I think it's 2017. Now, how come it's so much? If you think, you know, Seattle itself spent $54 million, and King County. Okay, so you have city, county, state, and federal funding for homelessness, and it all comes together. And this chart explains, you know, everything. It all comes together $195 million. $195 million.
But this money is only for people who are homeless?
Yes.
King County?
In King County, yes.
This money is too much. Like.
Well, it includes a lot of things, you know. And it also includes donations from philanthropic organizations, private organizations.
They have only like 15,000 people here, like homeless, maybe 20,000. So they should have solved this problem. So much of money.
Well, that's government. They're very good at spending money, very bad at eliminating expenses. Okay, so how much are we spending on homelessness? The homeless response system in King County sprawls across government agencies and philanthropy, but it does not have one centralized budget. To calculate what is spent and how, we asked government agencies and United Way King County for 2017 operations budgets dedicated to homelessness. The total does not include private organizations that don't receive government funding, such as Union Gospel Mission, or direct grants from major philanthropy. So, you know, the amount could be more than this. It's probably more than this, because they haven't included everything. Okay, this was published in the Seattle Times. Okay, next. Next is some small attempts at relieving homelessness in the Seattle area. Tiny houses or tent cities are appealing, but do not address the whole problem. And these are newspaper articles. You have a picture here of the Licton Springs project in Seattle. It's an actual project where tiny houses, and they're really tiny, they're less than 100 square feet, or about maximum 100 square feet, are erected, and they have composting toilet. I mean, they have honey buckets for toilets, no kitchen facility. And it says, should Seattle be building tent cities for the homeless? Amid a booming, tech-driven growth spurt, a controversial approach to sheltering the homeless is gaining ground. Even though he's considered unsheltered, literally homeless, Charlie Johnson isn't ready to move inside. He lives in a tent, in a row of tents, a procession of polyester and tarp, side by side. Across from his door is another row, and behind them another 6 rows, 31 tents in all. The kitchen tent is stocked with a bin of potatoes and a locker full of donated bread. A solar panel on the roof powers a toaster. There are 2 grills on a little deck outside. Unlike the parks where Johnson's shoes and backpack were stolen while he crashed between shelter stays, at Tent City, 5 campers run 24/7 security shifts. Johnson's tent is his own, day in, day out, unlike at the emergency shelters where he had to leave early each morning and return each night, toting all his belongings during the day. In other words, if you're homeless and you're staying in a shelter, like the Union Gospel Shelter, you can stay overnight, but you have to leave early in the morning, and you have to take everything with you. And, huh?
There's no permanent.
No, there's no permanent, you know, lockers or anything like that. And then in the night, you can come back in the night with all your stuff and sleep again. So you see people walking literally with all their belongings during the day, going around, staying in the libraries or different places where they're allowed to stay, and then they go back again. Yeah.
I'm not sure if you plan to share the presentation publicly, but one suggestion is the screenshots that we have from computer, there are tabs on the top which are visible, and I don't know if you necessarily want to share that, so maybe take.
What are you talking about?
So on the image,
Yeah.
it's a computer screenshot, all the tabs on the top, like there are different tabs on the browser.
Oh, I see, yeah. Oh, you want us to take that
You
out?
probably don't want to display it, especially if it's one.
What?
So
Why do you not want to display it?
I don't know what I cannot see from here, but unless there are sites open or whatever, it would be a cleaner image to take those tabs out.
Okay. If we can.
There are tools available. We can easily do it.
Okay. Okay, you can help us do that after. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, next. So this is LinkedIn, the picture of those little houses is LinkedIn Springs. So now we're saying, not another LinkedIn Springs in Seattle, which is too crowded and no self-reliant techniques for living sustainably. So it's just a bunch of these little tiny houses. They're really tiny, maximum 100 square feet. Yeah. No, it's not inside. They have honey buckets outside somewhere. They can't have toilet inside. They don't have any toilet. They don't have any septic tank. They don't have any way. They can't cook their food. It's a very. It's just a place to sleep. And by the way, they get funded by the government. The people who build these little tiny houses and the land they're on, they're getting money from the government. In fact, yeah.
Is this permanently assigned or every night you get a different?
No, it's permanent. They get funding from the government.
I think in the previous slide, it said like of the 195 million, about 98 million was spent for the permanent housing.
For the what? Yeah.
In the previous slide,
Yeah.
I think that's where the money is going. Like about 98 million from the 195 million is going towards permanent housing. This is the permanent housing.
Well, they includes that, yeah. Okay, so they have housing programs. And what do they have?
So it would be probably good to understand like
It's $9,802,000 housing and essential needs. And mental illness and drug dependency, housing levy, other housing programs, housing and essential needs, homeless prevention, rapid rehousing, transitional housing. Yes, so access and supportive services, emergency shelters, $31 million. So it's all ad hoc stuff, except for the permanent housing that they may be supplying. But that's not included, that's not including what's called rent, low rent housing that they provide. This is just
existing communities where they
yes.
offer the low rents.
Yeah, this is just, the ad hoc transitional types of things. Yeah.
Prabhu, like, obviously the big part is the 98 million for the permanent housing. That,
Did you see that? I don't see that.
in the same slide, the same funnel, bottom one. You see the bigger.
98 million permanent housing. Yeah, $98 million permanent housing. 50% of that, $5 million is for permanent housing, yeah. So that must be, you know, I'm not sure, but I think it's like the low rent housing that they provide for people who, you know, they're immigrants and they're people who are, you know, elderly persons and things like that. Yeah, so the actual homeless budget, therefore, would be less than that. It would be less than that. Okay, so not another LinkedIn Springs in Seattle, which is too crowded and no self-reliant techniques for living sustainably. So in other words, Northwest Share will not be like LinkedIn Shares. Yes.
Got some housing. So
Yes.
under this scheme,
Yes. And that's at $98 million for people like him. Yeah.
and
He hardly pays any rent. He pays maybe $80 or $100 a month. So it's subsidized housing.
And is that built or is it existing homes?
Existing. Yeah. Okay. The Pioneer Village will not be like San Francisco area tiny homes. They do not address the need for long-term sustainable living. The tiny houses are temporary shelter to transition out of homelessness. So San Francisco has built, Contra Costa has a $750,000 federal homelessness grant to pay for 50 stockable micro units of supporting housing. And Richmond Mayor Tom Butt would like to see them in his city. Nearly 1,000 tiny houses, or their close cousins, stackable modular housing units, typically with less than 200 square feet of living space, are being planned in San Francisco, San Jose, Richmond, Berkeley, Oakland, and Santa Rosa. Being planned. Right now they have 50 stackable micro units of supporting it. So stackable, those are cargo, what do you call it? Containers. They're cargo containers. You can stack one on top of the other, and they put some staircases on the outside, and people live in those things. It's very unhealthy. It's all metal, right? But it's something. Each cargo container contains about, it costs about $2,000, the old ones that they sell. Okay, next. Northwest Share proposal. Revive the spirit of pioneers living on the West Coast. Train homeless to live self-sustaining lifestyle in the Pioneer Village with sustenance, farming, animal husbandry, healthy lifestyle with herbalism. Principles of vegetarianism, ahimsa meat after the animal dies naturally, and regulated principles such as sleeping and waking up early, etc. Improve emotional well-being and gain self-confidence. Live simply and close to nature. Education and self-sufficiency and healthy lifestyle. So this can be improved, but these are some of the, let's call them lifestyle adjustments for self-sufficient living. Okay, next. Pioneer Village advantages. Living in harmony with nature and its natural cycles, like the carbon cycle, etc. Self-sufficient, now and in the future. Off the grid with solar panels and low electricity use. All facilities for heating and cooking with wood stoves, rainwater harvesting, and gray water system. Promotes motivation to work and cooperate with others. Simple living, high thinking. Solves unemployment issue and reduces dependence on social services. More time to learn techniques for self-sufficiency. Learn farming skills. Hugo, it's misspelled. Hugo culture. composting, cow care, sprouting, etc., and cooking skills. Healthy plant-based diet with fresh vegetables, whole grains. Key aspects of the Pioneer Village. Voluntary participation in the project. Next slide. Sustainable lifestyles and sustainable agriculture. Farmland, partially forested, close to a stream. Composting toilets. Okay, actually the name is not a composting toilet. It's called dry toilets and composting bins. A composting toilet is electric, but we don't have composting. We're not going to provide composting toilets. We provide what's called dry toilets and composting bins. Using Northwest red cedar wood tree sawdust, wood stoves, solar panels, and inverters. Land near a stream of water. Rescue cows from slaughterhouses to supply cow dung for ideal compost. Dry cow dung is a quick renewable resource for energy and soil amendment. Rainwater harvesting, runoff water salvaging techniques, drip irrigation, and olas, buried clay pots for water distribution to plants. So these are different techniques of water conservation. Wood stove sauna, bathhouses with water for washing and drying clothes. Okay, so this should be bathhouses with water for washing and drying clothes, bathing, and sauna for health. That's all in the bathhouse. So in other words, they can bathe in the bathhouse. They have hot water produced by the wood stove, and they have regular running water there. And they can wash their clothes and dry them. And